when circumstances change, who are you going to be during that next play? Whether it's the loss of a parent or a loved one, or something catastrophic happens to your business, or like, who are you going to be in that next play? And then the third lens is in goal setting. Generally speaking, goals are completely binary. Either you hit them or you don't. Mm-hmm. But either way, the question doesn't change, and that is, well, what's my next play?
We are Gold Ivy.
Our mission is to empower you to own and unleash your truth.
Stories of resiliency are gold, and ivy grows in hard places.
Those hard places are what creates space for light to shine through.
You decide what works for your daily life and how to transform our lessons into your gold.
This is Ivy Unleashed,
a Gold Ivy production. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today is a special one because we have a returning guest who is essentially the gold standard for performance and character. Alan Stein Jr. is back in the hot seat, and while many of you know him as a world-class speaker and the author of the powerhouse book, Raise Your Game, he's here to talk about his latest book, Next Play, How to Focus on What Matters Most and Improve Performance, Productivity, and Fulfillment. But before we dive into strategies, we want to set the stage for the person you're about to hear. Alan is, quite simply, one of the most excellent human beings we've had the privilege of knowing. In this conversation, he didn't just give us the highlight reel. He showed up with the level of vulnerability, openness, and raw honesty that blew us away. What we admire most about Alan isn't just his professional accolades. It's his extreme accountability. He is a man who lives with a relentless intentionality for the life he wants to lead, not just for himself, but as an example for his 3 children. He practices exactly what he preaches, and that integrity shines through every minute of this episode. Get ready for a deep, powerful, and transformative conversation. Alan, happy 50th, and thank you for being a part of our mission. Before we dive in, let's have a quick word from our incredible sponsors. Are you tired of the endless battle with cravings? Do you dream of managing your appetite without the hassle, the side effects, or the hefty price tag?
Then it's time to meet Dr. Stephanie. She's not just a doctor of pharmacy. She's a certified diabetes educator and a leading hormone expert. She listened to your struggles and formulated a gentle, natural solution, GLP Wonder.
GLP Wonder is a revolutionary supplement designed for an easier path to appetite control and hunger management. How? It works by combining powerful natural ingredients like areocitrin and green tea extract to naturally support your body's own GLP-1 levels. This signals fullness to your brain, curbs those persistent cravings, and even helps fight insulin spikes, that stubborn, fat-storing hormone.
The result? Reduced hunger, better appetite control, and a more natural way to stay on track with your diet and goals. It's effective, it's safe, and it's affordable. Just 1 capsule per day for powerful results.
GLP Wonder is now easier than ever to find. Look for Dr. Stephanie's GLP Wonder at Walgreens, CVS, and Walmart. And we are thrilled to announce that you can now find it in Target stores nationwide.
Stop waiting and start winning the fight against cravings today. Find your nearest store, or to learn more and shop the full Dr. Stephanie's collection, visit drstephanies.com. And for a limited time, use code GOLDIVY30 for 30% off all Dr. Stephanie products at drstephanies.com.
Hey everyone, if you're like me, January through May means cold and flu season. But this year, I'm ready. Besides the All Things Elderberry gummies my kids ask for every morning, I want to talk about something that is a non-negotiable in my fridge, the Everyday Elderberry Elixir from All Things Elderberry. They call it an elixir, not a syrup, and here's why. It's made with organic, farm-fresh Missouri elderberries, never dried. That gives it a light, uniquely juicy, and palatable consistency. It's not thick or overly sweet. And the difference it makes for me is huge. For me, a tablespoon anytime I feel that first little tickle in my throat or before a big event where I absolutely refuse to be sick. It either completely kicks symptoms to the curb or lessens them so fast. Even my oldest, Cora, is asking for it. I will never not have it. It's my daily defense. And who needs that defense more right now than our bride-to-be, Brooke?
Ooh, yes. Wedding season is basically a marathon. Between the bridal showers, the bachelorette trip to Florida, and all the main events, I don't have time to be run down. The thought of getting sick before my bachelorette trip, no thank you. I'm taking my elderberry elixir with me every morning, whether I'm at home or on the road. It's my little insurance policy so I can fully enjoy this once-in-a-lifetime season without worry. It's literally for the mom who holds everything together and the bride who is trying to hold her wedding together.
That's right. Whether you're a busy parent, a traveler, or a bride prepping for the big day, you deserve this defense. Stop letting illness slow you down. Head over to allthingselderberry.com right now.
And for 15% off your very first order, use our special code GOLDIVY. That's GOLDIVY. Get the everyday elderberry elixir. It's the defense you deserve.
And now to this episode of the Ivy Unleashed podcast.
Welcome back to the Ivy Unleashed podcast. You are with the one, the only Alan Stein Jr. today.
Hey guys.
Oh, we're
Thanks
so
for
excited.
coming back. He's here in the frozen tundra. It is negative degrees outside. I was happy that your plane landed. He's
Me
been
too.
up since 3 a.m. Central Time.
Yep.
How are we feeling?
Feel great. Yes. So glad we could do this.
I like that we could see your tats. I don't think we could see them last time, could we?
I didn't have them last time.
You didn't have
Well,
them last
not on the
time.
forearms. I had the upper stuff done.
Okay.
What inspired this look?
Oh boy, I don't know. They're very addicting. Do either of you have any tattoos?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah, I'm
yes,
starting
I
to
agree.
get covered, so
Yeah.
yeah.
They look good.
Well,
Well, last
thanks.
time Alan was here, we had a morning. We let him in a workout,
Yep.
and we were dripping in sweat. I think we
I
were
remember.
actually still like sweating while we
You
were
had a
recording.
sweat towel under your seat
I know. I remember.
in a very uncomfortable
In
chair.
case I got a little swampy. Yes.
We promised Alan he would have a better chair when
Oh,
he's
this
here.
is
And you know,
heavenly.
this man's about to be 50. We wanted to fulfill our promise. So
Yes.
here we are. And we have another beautiful book we are so excited to talk about.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
It's such a powerful book. So Next Play is Alan's book, How to Focus on What Matters Most and Improve Performance, Productivity, and Fulfillment, which is exactly what this book does. I think it's one of those books that you want to highlight the whole thing. There's so many powerful punches in it. And what I kept thinking about were people reading this when they're in a transition
Sure.
or they really just messed up something. They feel like they're in the midst of failure. I kept thinking like Next Play is such a great mentality, and I really want you to unpack this for our listeners, but leave it so, you know, they still want to read the book. But I want to talk about, you know, what inspired this book and who it's for.
What inspired it was, so I first heard the concept Next Play in 2000. I had just graduated college and I read Coach K's book, Leading with the Heart. And there was a chapter in there about Next Play. And it was a concept that he used to help the Duke players quickly move on after a mistake. You know, you turn the ball over, next play, you miss the shot, next play, the referee doesn't make a call, next play. And I remember reading it at the time and I could intellectualize it and conceptualize it and it made logical sense to me, but I didn't have the emotional maturity to actually implement it in my life at that time. I mean, at that age, I was easily emotionally hijacked. I would allow myself to get bent out of shape over the most trivial inconveniences and annoyances, much less the big stuff. So I just wasn't at a place in my life where I could actually use Next Play, even though it made sense. Well, fast forward 10 years when I started working at DeMatha Catholic High School, a really renowned high school in the DC area. And the coach there, Mike Jones, who's still a really good friend and mentor of mine to this day, he was implementing Next Play at DeMatha. And he would do it with the players. He would do it with the staff. He would do it on the court. He would do it in the classroom. Everything about DeMatha basketball was built on this concept of Next Play. And he even used this hand gesture almost to signify, hey, it's time to turn the page, like move on. And it was then that slowly but surely that I got to see it put into action. I started to adopt it in my own life. And fast forward another 15 years to present day. And while I certainly wouldn't claim to be a master at Next Play, I'm getting pretty good at it. And I would say it's one of the most fundamental concepts that I've ever applied in my life. And that's the reason for writing the book. You know, I feel like if it's been such a game changer for me, there's probably some other people out there that would find the tool helpful. And I've really tried to take the initial concept that Coach K invented and expand upon it. And I use it in several different ways in my life now, but that's the reason for writing it. It was such a profound shift in how I see the world. And I really believe if you can develop a Next Play mentality, it makes you as close to being emotionally bulletproof as possible because you're no longer at the mercy of what happens around you. It's all about how you choose to respond. Mm-hmm. And that's really the core theme of Next Play is, don't worry so much about what's going on in the world around you. Just put all of your faculties into thoughtful responses. And most of us have programmed ourselves to react emotionally and to react impulsively and react based on how we feel, when that's usually not our best self. So instead, I'm trying to teach folks and recondition myself to not react emotionally, but to respond thoughtfully.
And I cannot wait to dive into this, because it's not just for athletes.
Oh, no.
You're speaking to corporate America. We're reading this as entrepreneurs, as mothers. And so everyone listening is going to take so much away from this episode. But if people can only tune in for 5 minutes, this is something new we're doing this season.
Yep.
What impact would you want to leave them? You're about to turn 50. You got almost 50 years of wisdom under your belt. With the idea of next play, or maybe something different, what impact could they leave with in just a couple minutes of listening today?
So the entire premise of Next Play is to stop worrying about what just happened and focus on what's happening right now. To stop worrying about what you wished happened and focus on the reality of the situation. So in other words, it's to stop worrying about what was and focus on what is. So it's really it's a tool to keep you in the present moment. And to me, that's where really everything occurs. It's where high performance occurs. It's where fulfillment occurs. Everything occurs in the present. We often allow ourselves to get distracted by the past. We often allow ourselves to get anxious or worried about the future, when neither of those places really exist outside of language. I mean, you can't ever go back in the past, and you can't ever be in the future. As soon as you get to the future, well, it's now the present. So you can't ever be in, the only place you can ever be is in the present moment, except in our minds and in language. And to me, it's a reframing tool to allow us to do that. And when you can learn to quickly flip the script and be present, and you can respond thoughtfully, I've just found in my own life, it's an incredibly liberating and empowering feeling. I said before, it makes me feel bulletproof, because no matter what happens in the world around me, whether they're things I prefer, or they're things that I don't. And some of these are very low-level, trivial inconveniences and annoyances. You know, the Starbucks barista messes up your order. The Uber driver takes a wrong turn and is late. The Wi-Fi is buffering during a Zoom call. Like minor things, but think how many people allow themselves to get completely bent out of shape or put themselves in a bad mood because of something like that. Then we can also take a step back and look at big life transitions. Losing a loved one, someone getting diagnosed with a disease, getting injured, getting sued, going bankrupt. Like there's big things that happen in life that we need to be able to move on and move to a next play for. And a lot of those transitions are somewhat predictable. Like there's a good handful of them that we know we will all go through at some point in our life. Now, we don't necessarily know when, but you know it's coming. So I'm a big believer in being prepared, not paranoid, but prepared for some of these transitions. You know, one that I know is coming up for me in the next couple of years. I have 3 teenage kids. So in the blink of an eye, they're going to be out of the house, and I'll be affectionately known as an empty nester. And I've got to think, well, what's that chapter of my life going to look like? What is that next play going to be? How can I step into the best version of myself when all of these circumstances have changed and live an amazing, fulfilling life? So I'm certainly not wishing time away. I mean, I wish I could slow time down, but I am already giving thought to what is that going to look like for me when my kids leave the house. Yeah. So I want people to be very proactive in anticipating some of these next plays. Like I said, don't be paranoid. Don't be worried about them, but just be prepared. What's
the dance between that of being in the present, but still preparing for the future?
You keep an eye on what's coming so that you are prepared, but you still keep the overwhelming majority of your faculties in the present. But the relationship that the two have is the decisions you make in the present actually determine your future. You know, I mean, if you want to be healthy 3 years from now, you need to eat healthy today and work out today. You can't wait for 3 years to do that. You need to plant those seeds and lay those bricks today. And the cool part is, if you do that, then you're in essence designing your future. So one of the tools I use in my own life is, so I'm turning 50 tomorrow, but I've also got a crystal clear view of who I want to be at 60 and 70 and 80 and all the way to 100, because I'm somewhat delusionally optimistic. But the 60-year-old version of Alan, I'm making those decisions today. I'm planting those seeds today. So if I believe that the 60-year-old Alan wants to be physically, mentally, and emotionally fit, then I need to make decisions today that move me closer towards being that person. And if you do that, then in essence, you are designing your own future.
Yeah, you're creating the roadmap.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up parenting because a lot of our listeners are moms. A lot of them are women or they want to be moms. And I think something that happens a lot as a parent, I'm sure you can relate to this, is messing up, right? You get to, you get too short fused with your kids, or you say something you didn't mean, or you wish you would have been softer or kinder, fill in the blank. And I think that's a tough balance, right? Of thinking of the next play, but you're kind of still beating yourself up for what you did because those things matter. Obviously you can repair, but I'm curious how you balance that with your kids, like how knowing I could have done a better job with my kids, I could have been fill in the blank, kind of how you balance that with them.
Well, there's a couple things I'd recommend. First of all, and this is only my own personal parenting approach. I never give advice on parenting because I think it's a very personal decision, but I'm always very open about how I choose to approach it. And I'm incredibly honest and vulnerable with my kids. So when I mess up, I tell them I mess up. I apologize, I make amends, but then I move to the next play and I model that for them. I'm a huge believer that you need to model the behavior you want your kids to emulate or you want them to at least see. So I can't talk to them about moving to the next play and then allow them to see me beating myself up for weeks and weeks over a poor decision. I let them know, hey, I apologize for doing that. I was not my best self. That was not the best decision. Let's learn and move on. And then I encourage them to do the same thing.
I think some moms, and I'm just speaking from personal experience, a lot of it's like you're privately beating yourself up. You're not telling your kids you're beating yourself up and you can move to the next play. But I think some of that internal dialogue is maybe what we need to talk about of the next play is sometimes it's not always what you're doing, it's how you're talking to yourself. And I know you address this in the book too. It's really important to be action oriented, but I think you also need to move on or have some like tools for that negative self-talk.
Yeah.
So how do you move yourself on when you're privately beating yourself up?
Well, I would encourage you not to do that. I would encourage you to give yourself the grace and space to be less than perfect and be okay with being a flawed human being and accept the fact that in this example, as a mom, you're going to make mistakes. No different than a basketball player turns the ball over and misses shots. Even the best players in the world turn the ball over and miss shots. So no one escapes this game with straight A's. No one is perfect. So just acknowledge when you make mistakes and learn to forgive yourself. And see, I would argue that your kids will still pick up on that. Like kids are highly in tune to our nervous system. And if you're in a low mood because you're beating yourself up, or if they're going to pick up on that. They might not know exactly what's wrong, but they're going to know something is off. So to me, the very first step is to be able to forgive yourself when you make mistakes. And there's small mistakes, there's big mistakes, but again, no one's immune to making them. That's something I've really tried to work on, So I have twin sons that'll be 16 in a couple months. I know, which is nuts. They'll be driving. And my daughter will be 14 this June. And if at any point over their lifetime, if you asked me if I thought I was a great dad, I would say yes. And I absolutely would have believed it at the time. Although now with more wisdom and parenting experience, I can look back at previous times and go, man, Alan, you didn't have a clue. You definitely weren't as present as maybe you're capable of being now. But that's always what happens through hindsight. So I've learned to forgive the younger version of myself, the previous version when my kids were toddlers and maybe I wasn't as emotionally present because I had no idea what I was doing. I was doing everything I could just to survive and to provide. So at the time I was doing the best I could with the tools I had. Just fast forward 10, 12 years, I can do better today because I have better tools and I know how to use them better. But that's the way that it always works. I mean, that works in my speaking business. I'll watch a keynote I gave 10 years ago and it makes my stomach turn. But on that day, I was so proud of what I did because it was the best I was capable of at this time.
It's a good question, though. You say in the book, asking yourself powerful questions will create, amazing change in your life. And I think asking yourself, am I doing my best? And if you're not, what can I do differently? But if you truly feel like, okay, I really did do my best and I just, I think forgiving yourself for that, like allowing yourself to make mistakes, knowing I am really doing my best right now.
Yeah. And it's perfection is what stifles us and the thought that we need to be perfect. And that only gets exacerbated when you have the belief system that everybody else is perfect and everyone else is doing things the right way. I mean, I have made more parenting mistakes than anybody out there. I've made more financial mistakes than anyone out there. I've made more relationship mistakes. And they're not fun. I don't intend to make them, but that's all part of the process. And even now, as I plan to make my next 50, my best 50, my only goal is to do the best I can, not to keep repeating mistakes. My whole goal is to make a fresh batch. These next 50 years, I'm going to make just as many mistakes as I made in the first half. I'm just going to make different ones. I'm not going to keep making the same ones over and over. Because if you do that, then it becomes a behavior pattern. Then it becomes a choice. And so for me, that's the whole point. I'm never going to be immune to making mistakes or saying or doing the wrong thing, but can I learn from it? And if you can learn from it and then apply that to future behavior, then it's actually a helpful tool. And that's the way I'm all about, trying to stack the deck so that no matter what happens, I win. And by win, I mean, if I make a good decision, then I reap the benefits of making a good decision. If I make a bad decision, but I learn a lesson from it that prevents me from doing it again, well, then I've also won. I've won either way. And to me, the more times I can do that, then the better off I'll be.
Well, like in the book too, you share these personal failures with finances and relationship. And it
Yes.
shows that you have put in the work when it comes to your own personal development. And reading these chapters, I love, first of all, the size of the book. I think it's so convenient. It's easy to put in your bag, and it's an easy read, but it's deep work in it.
Thank you.
You know, when I'm reading this, I'm like, I feel like this is every personal development book I've read in one, with a chapter on self-awareness and gratitude and this idea of next play. And it's years and years of your own personal development. So without those failures, you wouldn't have stories.
Yes. And I wouldn't be
write
who I
about.
am today. And I'm grateful and proud of who I am today. But I have to remember, who I am today is a combination of all of it. Who I am today is partly because I've made some good decisions and done some good things, but who I am today is also because I've made some boneheaded decisions and done some really stupid things. But you can't have one without the other. And we often in life, we try to cherry pick. We see someone maybe on Instagram and we go, man, I would love to have their life. But you only want the good parts of their life. No one's signing up for the hard parts, because you have no idea what that person went through to get what they have. So maybe they have, all of the external trappings that you think you want, and you want all of those things, but you're like, yeah, but I don't want to work those hours. I don't want to do what they had to do. It's like seeing someone in the gym who's really fit. Yeah, I want their body. Okay, well then you have to eat what they eat and do what they do from a workout standpoint every day for not only years, but for decades. And if you're willing to do that, all right, then you got a shot at having that body. You can't have one without the other. So I finally learned to embrace the wholeness of who I am. And who I am is going to be some good stuff, some bad stuff, and a bunch of stuff in between. And I'm okay with that.
How do you feel like your self-worth, when we talk about perfectionism and insecurity and this mask of performance, how has that shifted for you over the years?
I've just learned to embrace it. I mean, I still have insecurities like everybody else. I just don't run from them anymore. I'm not embarrassed by them. I just know that's part of the human condition. And that actually shines a light on things that I still need to work on. Going back to trying to set up a game where no matter what, I win. When my preferences in life are met, I'm very grateful, because life's pretty easy when that happens. When my preferences in life are not met, I try to flip it on its head and go, wow, this is actually a chance for me to practice something I need to practice. Historically, I'm not an incredibly patient human being. So things like traffic and long lines and crowds historically have tended to annoy me. So when I find myself in those situations, I just go, Alan, patience is one of the things you need to practice more than anything. And the universe conspired to just give you a chance right now to give you a couple repetitions at getting better at it. So be thankful, because I do believe repetition is how you get good at anything. So the more long lines I stand in and the more inept cashiers I am working with, then the more it gives me a chance to practice the very thing that I need. Mm-hmm. And same thing, when you have an insecurity, the more you can lean into it and acknowledge it, the less power it has over you and the more power you have over it.
Let's get a little deep. Let's get in here. So insecurities, everybody has them. What's something you're insecure about right now that you're like, okay, this is something in this next year, I've been insecure about it. I'm going to face it. I'm going to work on it. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Well, I don't know if this would be classified as an insecurity, but the thing I'm really trying to work on this year is to really feel my feelings, which may sound kind of weird,
No,
but
not at all.
I tend to anesthetize myself by going to my head and staying away from my heart. So I tend to analyze as almost a form of self-soothing. I can pretty much rationalize and talk my way out of anything, but what I usually use that as is a crutch to stay away from unpleasant feelings. So now what I'm trying to do, if I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling disappointed, if I'm feeling rejected, if I'm feeling upset or angry or any of what most people would categorize as unpleasant feelings, I just try to sit with them. I try not to distract myself by scrolling on social media or, mindlessly binge watching a show or working out more than I normally work out. I try to literally just sit with my feelings and go, yeah, this sucks. It doesn't feel good to be sad, but it's okay to be sad. And it's part of the human condition. And I can just sit and feel sad for a little while and I'm okay.
Yeah.
And it's been actually a really healthy process. And I've only been doing this for the last couple of months because I've had a lot of things go up and down, and I'm trying just to sit with them and be okay with whatever those feelings are. And so to me, trying to connect my head to my heart is my main focal point for this year because I spend almost all of my time up here.
Yeah. I mean, it'll help everything. I think sometimes we think in business we need to be all up in our head, but it's so not true. It's like being with your heart, thinking about what you're passionate about, letting your heart kind of lead the way can create huge business opportunities, or people can feel that you're more passionate about whatever you're talking about. And what I like what you've done is with all the different chapters Brooke was talking about is there's actual exercises to help people with these things. So if they're struggling with gratitude or they're struggling with fulfillment, they don't know what their core values are, they're unsure of how to forgive themselves, fill in the blank. You have exercises that help people really get to do that work with how you've been able to do it yourself. So I think it's so powerful that you've done that. I'm curious how you took such huge topics and then how you decided to come up with these specific exercises.
Well, I'm going to backtrack for a second, and I appreciate the compliments on the size of the book. So my first two books were your traditional nonfiction books. They're 75,000 words, they're 15 chapters, and they're kind of a collage of a variety of ideas on improving and sustaining performance. For this book, I wanted to do something more bite-sized and digestible. So it's only a third of the page count and word count. There's about 25,000 words. The entire audiobook's only 3 hours long, which is a Joe Rogan podcast. The previous audiobooks were 8.5 hours long. And I wanted to see if picking one topic and going very deep, but in a very bite-sized, digestible way, increased retention and the way people applied it to their lives. Because, when you're writing books, there's a few things. One, certainly you want people to buy the book, but that's still on some level, that's just a vanity metric. What's more important is that people read the book. But what's even more important than that is that they actually put it into practice. So I'm a few levels removed from people just buying the book. I would rather only 1,000 people buy the book, but 900 of them actually apply it to their lives than to have 1 million people buy the book and only a few hundred apply it to their lives. So to me, I wanted to see if writing something shorter would actually increase the ability that it's applied and implemented and executed on. And that's why I put those exercises at the end of each chapter. I don't want folks just to collect ideas and thoughts and quotes. I want to give them a roadmap to be able to put it into practice and to do the stuff. And with all of this stuff, I know I said this last time I was on your show, I write the books I need to read myself. Like every single thing in that book, I either have done or I'm currently trying to do because, as I said, I want to move to the next play of my life in a variety of different ways. And a few other thoughts too, from a vulnerability standpoint. So a few weeks ago, I did the official book launch for my book, and I had an in-person event in DC, and I invited 100 people to come celebrate the launch of the book, and I was going to debut the Next Play keynote that goes with it for the first time. So it's the first time I'm giving this talk. Now I'd written it, I'd rehearsed it, I've gone through it 1 million times, and about 20 minutes into it, I completely forgot not where I was on the planet. I knew what room I was in and what state I was in, but completely forgot where I was in the talk. Yeah, and when you're in front of a group of people and you're speaking and you don't know what you're supposed to say next, it's the definition of vulnerability. You literally feel like
happened to you.
Yeah, I feel like I was standing in front of the world naked, just standing there, and
all your favorite people in the world are there.
Well, yes, there were some of my favorite people were there, but a whole bunch of people that I'd never met before. I invited some top CEOs and executives, like people that I really wanted to impress. And I had built it up in my head that I just needed to go out and nail this talk. And I had a moment of humanity. And now what was so interesting, in real time, within 10 seconds, I started to be flooded with thoughts of shame, of disappointment, of, Alan, I can't believe this was your moment and you just ruined it. Like within 10 seconds, all of the negative self-talk just flooded my brain.
Before we get back to today's conversation, I want to talk about something that hits most of us as we enter the premenopausal and menopausal years. That sudden, frustrating shift in how our bodies feel. We often talk about hot flashes, but we don't talk enough about the menopause middle. The stubborn bloating, the brain fog, and the fact that our digestion just seems to stall.
This isn't just in your head, it's in your microbiome. Trust me, I have worked for years to continually care for my gut health. As we age, our estrogen and progesterone levels drop, and we actually lose the diversity of the good bacteria in our gut. This dysbiosis leads to an increase in inflammatory bacteria, which is why we suddenly struggle with constipation, mood swings, and even sleep disturbances. That's why I want to introduce you to Relievance.
Relievance isn't just another fiber supplement. It was developed by Dr. Robert A. Gans, a nationally recognized board-certified gastroenterologist with over 30 years of clinical experience. Dr. Gans saw the limitations of standard fiber products and created this proprietary 8-fiber formula.
What makes Relievance different is the science of balance. It combines 8 different fibers, each selected for their specific viscosity and solubility. This allows the formula to dissolve gently and support your natural gut rhythm without the harsh gas or bloating often caused by single fiber supplements.
By increasing your fiber intake with a blended formula like Relievance, you're doing more than just staying regular. You're feeding the beneficial bacteria that help regulate your hormones, clear that menopause brain fog, and stabilize your energy levels. It's a tool to help fight the physiological effects of aging and reclaim your daily comfort.
It is third-party tested, gluten-free, and contains 0 artificial additives or fillers. It's just pure, clinically balanced support for a sensitive stomach. Sign me up.
If you're ready to target bloating at the source and support your microbiome through this transition, it's time to try the formula Dr. Gans developed for his own patients.
For your convenience, you can find Relievance Fiber right on Amazon or visit relevancefiber.com. Feel like yourself again with Relievance.
If you've listened to the podcast for a while, you know I used to be the biggest skeptic about supplements. I thought, I can definitely get everything I need from food. But then I started to realize that high-quality, clean supplements weren't about replacing a healthy diet. They were about optimizing my health in a way I never thought possible. For instance, I discovered what so many women eventually do. I was deficient in magnesium. Now that it's part of my routine, I'm sleeping better and I feel absolutely amazing. It made me realize that quality matters more than anything.
When it comes to taking supplements, ingredient integrity is a must for us both, and that's why we trust Smidge. Smidge offers a small line of foundational supplements, core nutrients, including 100% whole food vitamins, and digestive support for people who prioritize real food but know even the best diets have gaps. They obsess over ingredient integrity, crafting minimal, clean products with 0 additives and rich nutrients meticulously sourced from around the world. We both love Smidge's magnesium, but with my chronic gut health issues, Smidge's digestive support is my tried and true. I use their digestive enzymes every single day before meals, and it has been a game changer in post-meal bloat, fatigue, and overall digestion for me. If you have any digestive issues, their enzymes, including the original and HCl plus enzymes, are a must try.
Smidge just dropped some incredible whole food supplements that we've been loving. First up, their Kakadu Plum. Most vitamin C supplements are just mass-produced synthetic chemicals, but this is the real deal from Australia. It's pure, whole food vitamin C that your body actually knows how to use for glowing skin and a rock-solid immune system.
I'm also obsessed with their Australian emu oil. You won't find this at a typical health store. It's the best source of vitamin K2, MK4, which is a total game changer for women's bone and heart health. While plant-based K2 is hard for your body to process, Smidge's emu oil is already pre-converted, so your body absorbs it instantly.
So, if you want a brand that is truly backed by research, derived from sustainable principles, and only wants to provide you with the freshest, highest quality nutrients, it's Smidge.
Head over to getsmidge.com to check out their magnesium, emu oil, kakadu plum, and their fantastic digestive enzymes. And don't forget to use our code GOLDIVY10 at checkout for 10% off.
And now back to the show.
And then I took a breath and I owned it. I just said to the group, like, you're not going to believe this, but I don't know what I was supposed to say. I basically had 3 things I was sharing. And I said, number 1, bada boom. Number 2, bada bing. Number 3, yeah. And it got quiet and I couldn't think what I was supposed to say. And I just owned it and I leaned into it. And the group was so warm and so supportive. I mean, they're saying like, don't worry about it, Alan. Like, we got your back. Some of them were yelling out what they thought the third thing was going to be.
That.
Like, they were super helpful. Now, from start to finish, before my synapses reconnected and I remembered what I was supposed to say, from start to finish probably was 2 minutes. Now, internally, it felt like it was 2 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, but it was about 2 minutes of minor blip in the radar, and I picked right back up where I was. I then had to improv the rest of the talk because I basically said, you guys just got to see a real live next play. Yeah. Like, I just dropped the ball. Wasn't my preference, but I owned it. I acknowledged it. You guys were amazing. And now we move to the next play. And
I'm not think you manufactured that?
A couple of them did. And I just said, well, I don't have those acting chops. There's no way I could have pretended.
I ain't that good.
Yeah, exactly. But I wanted to make sure that, like, there was still 30 minutes left in the talk. So I couldn't allow that 2 minute snafu to ruin the next 30 minutes. What good would that do? Mm-hmm. So I had to move on to the next play immediately. And the talk ended really well. And I tell you what, I got more compliments and praise from that, from just being human and people saying like, and I know this consciously, there's not a single person there who left that day who thought less of me as a person or thought less of me as a speaker. Now, I had to battle my own internal dialogue because for a few moments there, I thought less of me as a person and I thought less of me as a speaker, but it didn't do anything. That was my own perception. And in fact, it actually strengthened it. When the people said, man, you allowed yourself to just be vulnerable, and they saw themselves in me and how catastrophic that would have felt to them if they were in my position. So it ended up being one of the best things that ever happened. But in the moment, it felt awful. It felt unpleasant. I didn't like it, but it turned out okay. And the feedback was great because people said, well, first of all, we know next play works because we just saw it live. We just got a masterclass in it. And you accept the fact that you're a flawed human being. You messed up. Big deal. I mean, I've given thousands of keynotes before, and that's the first time literally I could not even remember what I was supposed to say. Yeah. And it all worked out just fine. So that actually strengthens my belief in the concept, in knowing that no matter what happens, how I choose to respond. And because I chose to respond with vulnerability and openness and honesty and then wiped it clean so that the last 30 minutes was a pretty good talk, everyone was fine.
I feel like you, at some point, have to be okay with failure, with being imperfect, or you're not even going to put yourself out there to land the speaking gigs, to be a high performer. And what have you learned, I don't know, over the last 20 years when it comes to being a high performer and just your willingness to put yourself out there?
Well, I think the most dangerous thing you can do is play it safe. In fact, that's another area where I'm trying to expand because historically, I think I've skewed more towards playing it safe because I'd prefer to check the box and I'd prefer to say I did that thing. So, I can look back on my life. I've accomplished most of the goals I've set. And I don't say that, and I say that with the humility of that's because I set the bar too low. Mm-hmm. It's not because, so I'm trying to really stretch now. I'm trying to set incredibly lofty goals and ambitious, bold goals, and I'm okay with not meeting them. And I'm definitely okay with not being perfect because I'm of the belief there is no such thing as a perfect keynote. Mm-hmm. There is no such thing as a perfect podcast. I mean, as flawless as you may think it is, I can still go back and watch a keynote and go, well, yeah, I could have done that just a little better. I could have said that thing just a little. So there's no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing. I mean, in the history of basketball, a perfect game has never been played. I mean, that would be a game with no turnovers, no fouls, no missed shots. That doesn't happen, even with professionals, the best in the world. So we need to just stop trying to hold ourselves to this ideal of perfection.
Yeah. And I think looking at you as an example, someone that has a big following, gets on big stages, interacting with huge people in the motivational or self-growth and development space, it can look perfect, right? It can look like, oh, of course, easy for you to say, Alan, but what I like what you did in the book is taking someone that might not even know where to start, or they want to start a business, or they want to just start with personal development, that these exercises you gave, these next plays, one example is aligning your priorities. So when you're thinking about just getting started, you have a playbook here in Alan's book where he's saying, if you want to focus on clarifying your values, raising your standards, and making intentional choices that will move you towards your North Star, you have these exercises people can do. And I feel like it's such a great place to start if you have no idea. And I think, again, circling back to moms or women in general, sometimes we're very self-sacrificing, or we're thinking about other people's needs. We're trying to make sure everything's taken care of at Christmas and, fill in the blank on that. But I feel like getting to know, like, what are my priorities? What is it that I want? What is my North Star? I don't even know. I feel like the way that you wrote this is for high achievers, but also people just getting started, starting to focus on their own health and well-being or their own personal development.
Absolutely. And I know we were joking before the mics went hot about my belief in the basics and the fundamentals. And that's really what all of this stuff is. I mean, it's kind of a basics blueprint or fundamentals blueprint for a manifesto for all of our lives. But mine specifically, I mean, all of this stuff, excuse me, like I said, I'm trying to use in the next 50 years of my life. So it doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum. That's where we have to be very careful of playing the comparison game. Mm-hmm. And if, regardless of your age or your stature or where you are in life, if you're just starting out in a specific area, that's okay.
Yeah.
In fact, there should be some almost some youthful exuberance about being a rookie, about trying something for the first time. And that's the other thing. In the next 50 years of my life, I want to be able to explore and try things that I've never tried, go places I've never gone, do things I've never done. And when doing that, there's an inherent awkwardness. There's a learning curve. There's I don't really know what I'm doing here yet. And that's okay. To me, that's
also
beautiful.
Realignment, right? Like a year from now, you might want something different. So I think this book is useful. I was thinking about all of the things I highlighted, like pulling it back down a year from now and saying, okay, where am I at with this? Or I'll probably take a different takeaway from it. But I think checking in with yourself and being like, okay, that was important to me 5 years ago. Is that still where I'm at? Because something feels off.
Yeah.
I think it's important to continually realign.
Always recalibrate.
Yeah.
And I started to speak to this before, but there's really 3 lenses to use next play. You use it in the micro, which is in the moment. That's when primarily these minor inconveniences and annoyances happen. But are you able to just bounce back with resilience? Because at any given day, half a dozen to a dozen of those things are going to happen to you. And, I'm a big believer that if the Starbucks barista messes up your coffee at 6 a.m. and you're still in a mood at 6 p.m, that's a you problem. That ain't a Starbucks barista problem. That's a you problem, because that's really not that big of a deal. So in the micro, it's important. Then we want to zoom out in the macro, as I said, and that is look at these big life transitions that we all go through and figure out, when circumstances change, who are you going to be during that next play? Whether it's the loss of a parent or a loved one, or something catastrophic happens to your business, or like, who are you going to be in that next play? And then the third lens is in goal setting. Generally speaking, goals are completely binary. Either you hit them or you don't. But either way, the question doesn't change. And that is, well, what's my next play? So if you just hit a goal, awesome. You should celebrate it and congratulate yourself and enjoy the moment. But what's next? You can't ride off on that, glory for the rest of your life. Well, what if you fall short of a goal? Well, how are you going to recalibrate, and what's your next play? Are you going to move the bar? Are you going to try to go after that goal again? So no matter what, you still have to recalibrate. And life should be a constant state of recalibration, and you should constantly recalibrate your North Star. My North Star has changed from being 20 to being 50. What I thought was important in my 20s and 30s isn't as important to me now. And it may change again in the next 10 to 15 years. Who knows? But that's why you need that constant recalibration. I know for my speaking business, 4 years ago, I set a speaking revenue goal, and I didn't hit it. And I didn't hit it the next year, and I didn't hit it for the third year. And I'm proud to say this past year, I finally hit it.
Woo!
But it took 4 swings before I hit it. But now I have to ask myself a different question, because I don't want to be complacent now in 2026. But I also know that what I did in 2025 is not guaranteed. Just because I did it last year doesn't mean it's going to automatically happen again. You got to keep sharpening the saw. So now I've got to say, all right, what does success look like to me this year? And what am I going to do? What can I learn from last year? What things went well that I'll do more of? What things did not go so well that I'll do less of? And how do I tighten the screws and refocus the lens so I can go after it again this year? And if I were to miss it this year, that's okay. There's always a next play. And that's also what I love in perpetuity. No matter what you do, there's a next play. And for me, that takes some of the pressure off of thinking, well, I have to make a perfect choice or decision. No, you don't. If you make the wrong decision, you get another next play. Yeah. And if you mess that one up, you get another next play. So to me, that's why I find it so liberating and empowering, is it gives me the power. So I get to choose my North Star, I get to choose my goals, and I get to choose how I respond, whether I hit them or I don't. So far, no one else has even entered the equation. And that's what gives me an immense strength, a sense of power.
Mm-hmm. What has been a goal that you thought would help you raise your game that you missed and you just absolutely vetoed it? You said, maybe let's not even try again.
For me, the problem with a lot of the goal setting is that we put way too much focus on the outcome portion of it. And to me, what's way more important is the process. Mm-hmm. So notice that I said for 3 years in a row, I missed my goal, and I said it with a smile. And the reason I said it with a smile was I didn't hit the metric that I tried to hit, but I'm proud of the man I became on the journey of pursuing the goal those 3 years. And that's what matters more than anything. So to me, I try to make everything based on process, not on outcome. Now, sometimes you need the outcome as kind of the shiny object and say, all right, here's the outcome goal that I want to hit. But what's way more important, and I pay way more attention to the process. So the years that I didn't hit the goal, I didn't spend any time worried about not hitting the goal. What I did was lifted up the hood and started tinkering with the engine and go, what part of the process needs to change to increase the chance that I'll hit the goal next time? And sometimes those things are blatantly obvious. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes, there was one of those years I felt like 10% shy of the goal. And at the time, it was still the best year I'd ever had. It almost doubled what I did the previous year. So, by all other metrics, it was the most successful year I'd ever had in speaking, but I just didn't quite hit the goal that I had set, and I was okay with that. But I went back to the process and said, what things did I do this year that really worked, and what things maybe didn't? And then when something doesn't work, you can either choose to tweak it or scrap it, either one, but you don't want to keep doing what you've been doing, or you'll keep getting what you've been getting.
How do you know when to scrap it?
Some of it's just intuition. Some of it's just life experience. Some of it is if there's something that can be measured analytically, maybe the data will show you that this isn't worth pursuing. Some of it is, I have people close to me in my life that I very much trust their judgment and their vantage point, and I'll ask for their opinion. I don't know that there's ever 100% that it'll be crystal clear. But for me, it's kind of a culmination of a lot of those things. And when I'm making decisions, I try to align my head, my heart, my gut, and what I'll just call my board of directors, my inner circle. And if my head, heart, gut, and the people around me all say go that way, then that's the way I'm going to go. When it's a little bit broken up. If my head and heart say go this way, my gut says go this way, and you two tell me to go that way, then it's going to be a little more contemplation. But I don't want to be paralyzed by analyzing it, which I tend to do. You just got to pick a direction and go. And then once you do, figure out if that feels right. And if it doesn't, then course correct. Yeah. No different than our GPS. When you have a GPS in the car and you make a wrong turn, it just says rerouting. It doesn't get angry at you. It doesn't, throw itself out of the car. It doesn't curse at you. It just says in a very stoic, robotic voice, rerouting.
It's going to take a little bit longer to get there,
yes.
But we're going to get there.
and that's okay. So I really believe our lives, we're in a constant state of rerouting. I tried this. It didn't work. Let me try this. That didn't work. I tried that. Oh, that worked. Let's do more of this. Oh, that's still working.
Brooke and I
Let's
don't know
do more
anything about that, do we? I guess business owners, you constantly have to do that.
Yeah. And being okay with that end goal always pivoting, shifting.
Well, what I'm finding in my life, is where I struggle more is in personal relationships, like intimate relationships and dating. There's stuff that will also be a focal point for me because I'm not as keen in that area as I am in some
currently
others.
single?
I am.
Ladies,
Yes.
Alan is fit. He's successful. He's a good dad. What else? Let's keep the list going. He's got some really cool tats.
He's easily embarrassed. His face is probably
he's
really
a
red.
man that does therapy. Come
Yes.
on.
Oh, well, if you guys want to go down that path. So as part of all of this, so I've done traditional psychotherapy, talk therapy. I did that years ago when I started going through my divorce, and I found it to be a very helpful tool. But as I just mentioned to you guys, what I've recently identified by myself is I spend way too much time up here. So for me at present, going in and analyzing and talking about all of my issues, I don't think is the best thing for me. And I'm a huge proponent of therapy. So what I've just started doing now is hypnotherapy, because hypnotherapy is supposed to cut through a layer to get more to the unconscious, which is where I think most of it's where everyone's issues lie. But I'm consciously aware that it's my unconscious that I need to rewire. Yeah. And so I've been trying hypnotherapy, and I mean, the verdict's still out. I'm still a flawed human being, but it's been really interesting so far. So that's one of the commitments I'm making now, in addition to trying to just sit with and be with my feelings. Because most of this stuff, I mean, if we really want to go down the deep rabbit hole, I mean, all of this was ingrained at a very young age. I mean, most of the issues that I have today in my relationships started when I was 5 or 6 or 7 years old. And that was based on what was implanted in me and downloaded on me by my parents, who did the best they could with the tools they had. But, you know, we talked earlier about like your ability to regulate your nervous system. You know, I tend to have a lot of anxiety, and a lot of that my mom was one of the most anxious people I've ever met. I mean, so anxious. So there's no doubt that as a young child, I picked up on that vibration and that energy, and that's part of my nervous system now. And I'm trying, hopefully through some hypnotherapy, to lessen the severity and occurrence of some of the anxiety I feel in relationships and in every area.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's even in the womb, which this is what freaks me out about being a mom. I'm like, really? Like, we are in charge of so much of their, you know, in the world, but they take on, sure, but also from the second that they're in our womb, our anxiety, they feel that in the
100%.
womb. You know, it is wild. But I think something I was going to say about where you're at with hypnotherapy, willing to work on things, is accountability, ownership. Like you're not blaming this on your parents. It's just a fact of life that your mom was anxious, so you're feeling this, so you're doing something about it. And I think a lot of people can get trapped in that victim mentality of, well, my mom was anxious, so I'm anxious. So here we are. You're probably going to be anxious too. It's like, no, you're trying some very different practices.
Yes. Because
you know what's not working and what you really want. And what you really want is a rich relationship where you're your best self.
Yeah. But I went through each of those stages too. So, you know, so my first stage, which is everyone's first stage, is complete unawareness. Like I had no idea. I mean, and when I first went into talk therapy, and she started asking me about my childhood and my parents, I mean, I was saying things like, oh, I had the greatest childhood ever. I had the most loving parents. They were at every sporting event. We did dinner at 6:00 every night. And I say this with love in my heart, not in a judgmental way, but my parents weren't very emotionally available. So even though they checked the boxes of being at every sporting event, they weren't, there wasn't a safe space for me to express my emotions, which has always been something that's been hard for me. So I went from unawareness to then an awareness. And then you better believe that I swung heavy in the other direction. I had massive resentment towards my parents, almost an anger of how dare you guys F me up by not knowing what you were doing. I mean, what an off-putting, arrogant position to have, me judging my parents who were going through life on their first go, doing the best they could. They weren't given a handbook either. So now I've swung back in the other direction. And I mean, it sounds, again, almost self-righteous to say, forgiven my parents. Not that they need my forgiveness, but forgiven them for not being perfect, because now I know that I certainly haven't been. And as I said earlier, I can think back when my kids were really little. I know that I've downloaded some nervous anxiety on them. I know that I've downloaded some of these things. So now it's a matter of me doing the work myself to fix for my own life. And fix isn't even the right word. Fix implies that something's broken. There's nothing in me that's broken. There are some edges that need to be rounded off and some things that need to be course corrected for me to live a better life. But everything that I need to live a remarkable, high-performing, productive, fulfilled life is already inside of me. I have all of it. I just need to learn how to get out of my own way. And that's what I'm trying to do through therapy. And then that's what I want to be able to emulate and show my kids and be able to say, because I had this talk with my daughter the other day who suffers from some anxiety and said, hey, sweetheart, just so you know, if you feel a little anxious going up and talking in front of the class, like I gave that to you, not the talking in front of the class part, because that part's easy for me, but there are things that I get super anxious about. Like, I mean, like if you told me I had to go to the doctor right now and give blood, every single one of my markers, you'd feel me sweat. You would feel my heart rate accelerate. Like I would be a nervous wreck because that's something that makes me very anxious.
Maybe have the hypnotists work on that too.
Oh, trust me. The hypnotist is going to be working on all of this stuff without question. I mean, think of because that's the part that I find interesting. So like, and I asked my daughter, I was like, consciously, you understand that if you go up and speak in front of your class, nothing bad's going to happen to you, right? And she's like, yeah, I know that. And I said, well, but you still feel kind of a pit in your stomach and you get nervous. And she said, yeah. And I said, well, that's your unconscious mind that's doing that. Those are feelings that you've basically saved in your body. And I said, you got a lot of that from me and you got that from your mom. So don't feel bad that you are a little nervous to go speak. Like that was something that was downloaded onto you, just as it was for all of us. Now, I can't unwind back to my childhood. I can't even unwind back to my kids' childhood, but all I can do moving forward is to try to course correct some of these things, get out of my own way, and just be okay with the journey. And that's where I am. So I'm happy to lean into all of this stuff right now.
I mean, when I think about anxiety, that this is the tool, the roadmap to help with it. We get stuck, speaking from experience, you ruminate, you spiral, and just to get out of that loop, to think, I say this to myself all the time, next play, like move on. It is what it is. There's literally nothing you can do. You're making it worse by dwelling on it. What can you learn? Have the awareness. Next play. Also, Mel Robbins, the mindset shift we all need.
Yes.
Can we talk about that?
Yes, very, very fortunate. I'm a huge Mel Robbins fan. But you know what's interesting, to go back to, you have to be somewhat resilient to hearing no. And you said some very kind things that, you know, I have a decent sized following. I ain't got a Mel Robbins following. I've sold a few books. I ain't sold Mel Robbins level of books. I'm on amazing podcasts. But I've asked Mel several times, and I'm not the right fit to be on her podcast. I hear no a lot, and I'm getting okay with hearing that, because it's all just on how you choose to frame it. Mm-hmm. If you hear the word no and you view that as I'm not worthy or I'm not enough, then that will only exacerbate the spiral of despair. If you just hear it as, oh, I'm not the right fit, that's okay. You know when you have a jigsaw puzzle and you pour it all out, all the pieces don't fit together. Only some pieces fit together. Mm-hmm. So sometimes things just aren't the right fit. That doesn't mean that each of those puzzle pieces is bad or wrong. It just means they're not meant to be together, and that's okay. Even now, as I'm in the dating world, like that's what I have to come to grips with, that not everyone is the right fit. Sometimes I'm the one that says this isn't the right fit. And sometimes it's the other person that says, no, Alan, you're not the right fit for me. And it doesn't feel good to hear that. But it's really, that's all just ego. That's the ego feeling damaged. And then if you start to tell yourself, well, that means I'm not good enough for you, or I'm not, then you have a problem. If you can learn to just say, okay, then I'm not the right fit. I can accept that and move on. And that's the stage I'm in. It's being able to quickly accept, learn something from it, and then recalibrate. And as long as I'm my authentic, genuine self, and I bring my full self to a relationship, if someone doesn't think I'm the right fit, I have to be okay with that. And
they're not the right one for you.
Yeah, and that's okay. And even if they check all of the boxes of what you believe you're looking for in someone, the most important box to check is someone who sees me and values me for who I am. You can check every other box. If they don't check that one, they're not the right person for you. Each of us deserves someone who sees us in our wholeness and loves us for who we are. But that starts with us. We have to see ourselves and love ourselves. Mm-hmm. And, I know at the beginning of this conversation, you mentioned self-talk. I mean, the most important conversations we'll ever have in our life are the ones we have with ourselves. And most of us, and I put myself at the front of that line, historically talk to ourselves in a way more critical voice than we would ever talk to someone else. We'll say things to ourselves we would never say out loud, and would definitely not say to another human being, much less someone we truly care about. Mm-hmm. So one of the reframing tools I try to use is I try not to say anything to myself that I wouldn't say to a loved one or a friend, or I wouldn't say to a child, Or would I say that to my 5-year-old self? Like, if I wouldn't, then stop saying that to myself now. So that's all been part of my practice of letting go of perfection.
I love it.
There's so much in this book, even though it's tiny.
Yes.
It's powerful. It's mighty. What, if there were 3 things out of our conversation today, out of this book, only 3 that you could leave listeners with, what would they be for your 3 gold stars today?
And it's okay to repeat something I've already said?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Stop worrying about what just happened and focus on what's happening now. Or actually, more importantly, stop focusing on what you wished happened and focus on what actually happened. That's number 1. Number 2 would be stop reacting impulsively and reacting emotionally, but instead respond thoughtfully and respond with intention. And then the 3rd I would say is give yourself the grace and space to be less than perfect, and just remember that life is a constant state of recalibration. It's a constant state of rerouting, just like the GPS, and learn to be okay with that.
I love those. They're so good. The word that keeps coming to mind, and it's before you even hear, but it's just integrity. You have just so much integrity in your work, what you're doing. And I think a lot of it is that ownership of just owning your life, like owning that you have the tools. You just need to realign with who you are. And I just love that you've created this, I don't want to say it's a workbook, but this tool to read and then use it as a workbook to up levels. So I love it. And what we're going to do next is Unleashing Ivy. So these are surprise questions for you.
Sweet.
And in my mind, and in this book, many times you mention Coach K.
Yes.
And I love that you have someone you look up to so much, and you use a lot of his quotes in the book. And in your last book, you mentioned him too. You just love him so much. So I want to hear about, how he's become such a mentor for you, for people that might not have access to a Coach K, but they want to use their wisdom or their guidance. How do you do that in your day-to-day with Coach K?
What many people don't know is I actually grew up as a UNC fan, and I grew up based on my age. Dean Smith was the coach, and he's one of the most iconic college basketball coaches of all time. And I grew up as a UNC fan, actually went to Carolina basketball school, their summer basketball camp as a player was growing up, loved everything UNC. Now, for any of your viewers or listeners who don't know college basketball, UNC and Duke are about as big of a rivalry as there is in all of sports. There is a legitimate hatred between the two. So I grew up as a UNC fan. In 2000, when I read Leading with the Heart by Coach K, everything changed for me. I immediately became a Coach K fan and thus a Duke fan by default. Now, I'm one of the few. That does not mean I hate UNC. It could not be further from the truth. Now, I do root for Duke anytime Duke plays UNC, but outside of that, I still have an affinity. But Coach K's words spoke to me so much in that book. That's one of a handful of books where I can say I was literally a different man after reading the book when I was before it. His thoughts on leadership and building teams was just remarkable. And since then, I've become a Coach K fan. Now, because of my work in my previous industry as a basketball performance coach, I had multiple opportunities to go to Duke games, to meet Coach K, to have conversations with him. And every single one of those interactions only strengthened my affinity for him. They say never meet your heroes. Well, in this case, that is not true. Meeting my hero actually made things even of a stronger feeling. But here's a fun story for you guys. So exactly 1 year ago, right before I was going to turn 49, I told my 3 kids that I was going to finally go to the Coach K fantasy camp. Coach K holds a camp down at Duke every summer at the end of every May for middle-aged guys like me that still want to pretend we're young and play hoops. and this camp had been on my bucket list for a decade. And I told my 3 kids, guys, next year when I turn 50, as a present to myself, I'm going to the Coach K camp. And my son Luke, who was 14 at the time, said something incredibly profound and wise. He said, "Dad, that's awesome, but why would you wait a year to do something you know you want to do now? Why would you delay enjoyment?" I didn't have an answer for him. And I said, "Man, you're 100% right." Like, think about it. What's the difference between doing the camp the summer before I turned 50 or the summer after I turned 50? Like, it's 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. And that night I signed up for the Coach K camp off of Luke's recommendation. And I spent the next 6 months training as hard as possible because I don't do anything casually. If I'm going to go down to Duke to play basketball, I want to make the best impression I can make. Now, I have no control over how good I am compared to other players, and I had no idea how talented they'd be. but I had control over whether or not I showed up as the best version of myself on and off the court and was fully committed to that. So I was playing pickup 3 or 4 times a week. I hired a basketball trainer to take me through workouts. And then I was doing my normal strength and conditioning and fitness stuff, which is pretty immersive.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. And I got down to Duke and I was in absolutely the best shape ever. I felt like a kid again. Some of my best memories of my entire life were going to basketball camp as a child. And here I am, an adult, getting to relive that. And I'm in Cameron Indoor Stadium, which is one of the most epic arenas of all time for basketball, but especially for a Duke fan and a Coach K fan. Coach K is sitting courtside watching all of the games. It doesn't get any better than this. And on the first day, I break my arm. First day, shatter my elbow, and a week later had to have surgery to reattach the tricep tendon because the tricep came off. I even have, you can't see it now, but I have next play tattooed on my arm pointing at the scar just as a good reminder. But the reason I share that, so it broke my arm, so obviously couldn't play in the camp anymore.
How'd you break it?
I was sprinting back on defense and accidentally got tripped, and my elbow hit the ground first.
Did you knock the guy out with your other arm?
No, so here's the thing. You've hit your funny bone before. It doesn't feel great, but you know that there's no structural damage. It just hurt. So I didn't think there was anything wrong. I just popped back up. I played for 2 more minutes and then I got fouled. And when I went to the free throw line to shoot, my arm wouldn't extend because there was no tricep. And literally the ball went 2 feet and dropped to the ground. And it's like the whole gym stopped and was like, what's wrong with this guy? And I came out and there was a knot on my elbow about that big that had filled up with fluid. They took me to the emergency room to get an x-ray, which we all knew what the answer was going to be. But a couple things. One, in the moment, I just popped up and moved to the next play because I didn't think I had hurt myself. In a slightly removed, they told me that I couldn't have surgery for 1 week because they needed the swelling to naturally go down. So there was nothing that I could do other than just put a sleeve on it. So I just stayed for the rest of camp. I mean, part of me that night, I was in tears. I was so disappointed, so upset, all this. But then I woke up the next morning and go, all right, I have to choose the next play. I can literally take my ball, go home and pout and think, woe is me. Or I can stay and sit on the bench, cheer my teammates on, and still fully immerse myself in this experience. Well, if you put it that way, it's pretty obvious what I needed to do. So I stayed and had a great time. And the next day, Coach K came up and talked to me and extended his condolences that this was my first experience at K Camp. Even better, the day I got home from surgery, he called me, left me a voice message. It's the only voice message I have saved on my phone. And then a few weeks later, sent me a handwritten note just to check in.
Does he know how much you love him?
I don't think that he does. I think he does these things because he believes that's what you do and you do what's right.
That's why you love him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And absolutely. So, and then, the 12 weeks following that was a series of braces and slings and doing everything in my life with my non-dominant hand from, learning to cook food and cut food and brush your teeth. So it was a great learning experience. So all of that to say, I read his book in 2000, and here 26 years later, my opinion of him has only grown even fonder, and I'm very grateful. And I've already signed up for this year's Coach K camp, so I'll be back again. There's no way I was going to end on that note. I'll go through the exact same training regimen and go down there to do the best that I'm capable of, and whatever happens, happens. What I can say, though, obviously, it was not my preference to break my arm, and I would not prefer to do that again this year. But once that happened and I accepted that was reality, then I had to figure out what I was going to do next. And I'm proud of the decisions that I made. Now, throughout that, you better believe there was some major frustrations, like showering basically with a trash bag over your arm because you can't get it wet for a couple weeks, and learning how to bathe and do everything with your non-dominant hand. There were frustrating times, but here's what I reminded myself. One, I'm allowed to be frustrated, and that's okay. Like I didn't try to suppress it or resist it. If I was feeling frustrated, I allowed myself to feel that way. But I also zoomed back and said, Alan, there's things people go through that are a lot worse than a broken arm. In fact, here's a funny story. I wouldn't even make the podium for best injury at camp. 2 guys ruptured their Achilles 2 guys tore their ACL, and 1 guy had the nastiest compound fracture in his lower leg that anyone has ever seen. So at best, I was the 6th coolest injury
You're
at
going
a
to go
camp.
back to this camp?
100%
We will
going
pray
back.
for your left elbow.
And I hope that everything is going to be okay. But yeah, I'm proud of the way that I was able to handle that. But what I was going to say was, even though I would have never in a million years preferred for that to happen, I can look back now with a huge amount of gratefulness that it did, because of how many lessons I learned, what it taught me. I told you guys earlier that historically I'm not a very patient person. Well, when you break your dominant elbow and you can't do things for 12 weeks, you learn how to be patient. Yeah. You learn that it's going to take you twice as long to brush your teeth and to shower, and that's okay. And that gives you a better perspective on everything else in life.
You wouldn't have a voicemail from Coach K if that didn't happen. You can listen to that every day of the rest of your life.
I do. Think about that. And another handwritten note from him. I mean, that's just the right way to do things. Yeah. And that's the other part that I want to make sure folks understand. I'm not trying to be Coach K, not that I even could if I wanted to, but I can take traits from someone that I admire and try to emulate them. And one of the things I pull from him is his thoughtfulness, his attention to detail, that he does the right thing. I mean, even in retirement, the level of inquiries that he gets for speaking engagements, for appearances, for sponsorships is so overwhelming that for him to take the time out of his day to leave me a 30-second voice message is a big deal. Yeah. And at the risk of sounding like a total jackass, someone may look at me like I'm their Coach K.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, can I do the same thing for someone else? Can I take the time to send someone a thoughtful note or a thoughtful email or a hand? And the answer is yes, I can do that.
I have one right here.
There we go.
Aww.
With this picture on it and a handwritten note, you could have just sent this book. Well, first of all, you sent a book, which was so nice. And you took time to write a sweet note. And I think it just shows, I think you can take things from the people that you look up to and emulate them, but in your own way. Like Coach K didn't write that. You did with your own thoughtfulness. So I love that.
Well, I'm so glad.
Yeah. It reminds me of the chapter on emotional deposits too.
Yes.
I loved that chapter. And that's not something you hear a lot. So I don't want to get into it because I want people to get this book. But I do want to say that was my favorite chapter. Yeah. And as you're speaking on the elbow and the injury, it shows me you can train. You can do all of the right things and shit still happens.
Yes.
And this leads me to my question perfectly.
Sure.
You had a post. This morning when I saw it, it was 9 hours old. But it was a social media post of yours.
All right.
And I'm going to ask you a question about it.
Please.
Oh, I love that.
So you said these are, as far as your game plan, the foundation of what you currently do. Andrew and I are both obsessed with habits and what you're doing to take care of yourselves. I'm not going to read all of these, but this is a lengthy list. You take IM8 multivitamin longevity daily. You walk for 60 minutes every morning, 7 to 8 hours of sleep, strength train, play hoops, do sauna sesh, 36 to 48 hour fast once a month. You eat clean, no dairy, no wheat, 25 to 30 grams of protein every meal. This is a lot of things.
It is.
Okay. This is a 2-part question. You can only choose one to continue to do for your performance, for your mental health, however you want to look at it. That's the first question. Second question is, which one of these surprised you the most when you started doing them? I'll let you look at this list too.
No, I think I know the list. Well, first of all, with each of those things, I've kind of systematized my day that those things are just built into what I do. So I don't wake up every day with that as a checklist in front of me going, I have to do this. I've just trained myself that when I eat, I'm going to eat whole foods with natural ingredients, and I'm going to try and get some protein at every meal. Like, it's not at some point it was rather robotic and I had to actually try and game plan and figure it out. Now it just becomes natural to me. So I flex that muscle. Cause I know someone can listen to that and feel a little bit stifled by that. Yeah. It's also important for folks to know that as far as my own operating system, I actually thrive with consistency. I thrive with structure. Like, those are things I love. Someone listening to this might prefer spontaneity. Like, that might make them feel claustrophobic to think they have to do that every single day, because you don't have to do any of it. That's the beautiful part. And I don't have to do any of that stuff. I choose to, and it's in alignment with who I'm trying to become and the things that fill my bucket in the present moment. The one on the list that I struggle with the most, and is probably the most important, is sleep.
I was going to guess.
Yeah. Now, when I say struggle with, I struggle to get the quality sleep. Now, I have the Aura Ring, which tells me when I do well and when I don't. I've gotten very good at prioritizing sleep, putting myself to bed, having a sleep routine, having good sleep hygiene. I do all of those things and I still don't get the scores that I would hope would be reflective of that. But I can't control the scores. All I can control is the process. But
Why do you think that is?
I think sleep is the most important part. The reason I don't sleep well, it's a big red bow tie on everything that we've talked about here. My anxiety, my running mind, it's a variety of those things that I have struggle turning it off to be completely at peace, to go at sleep, to get a quality night's sleep. It's not about environment. It's not about, I have all of the sleep hacks and tools. I do everything that I'm supposed to. And as we said, you can still do everything right and not get the outcome you wanted. One of the ones that's probably made the biggest difference for me is going for a walk every morning. Now, when I say every morning, I probably shouldn't speak in absolutes. I was up at 3 this morning to catch a flight. I did not go for a walk this morning.
Do you want to walk in -10 right now? We can get out there.
So today will be an off day, but tomorrow before I speak, I'll head down to the fitness center at the Omni and I'll do an incline treadmill walk for 60 minutes. On the days that I speak, I don't listen to anything. I rehearse my keynote in my head while I'm walking. On the days that I don't speak, I usually listen to a podcast or something to help feed my brain and my emotional state. But the walking every morning has just been a phenomenal way to just set the tone. And it's not that physically rigorous, but it still gets the blood flow. There's a meditative component to the stillness and the monotony of it that I really enjoy. It gets my brain right, and then come back, make some breakfast, and go on with my day.
And if you do it in the morning outside and you get the natural sunlight, that helps set your circadian rhythm to help with your sleep.
And 7 months a year, I do it outside in the DC area. Right now it ain't Minnesota cold. Minneapolis cold, but it's still cold. Yeah. So I do the best that I can.
Can I just circle back to the basics? We're talking sleep and walking. Nothing's rocket science. It's literally just doing it. It's just being disciplined and never getting bored with the basics.
Yeah. First, let's talk about discipline for a moment. Most people who know me identify me as being a very disciplined person. And I agree. That's part of my identity. But what I want folks to know about discipline, well, there's a couple things. One, I believe in society in general, we way over index motivation and the need for motivation. Motivation is a feeling. And like all feelings that we've discussed today, they will ebb and they'll flow. No one in this world, no one in Minneapolis, and myself at the front of that line feels motivated 100% of the time. And one of the interesting parts about motivation is when we need it most is often when it shows up the least. When we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling stressed, when we're feeling anxious, that's when we need motivation, and it's nowhere to be found. So motivation is very unreliable as a source of fuel. If you have it, be grateful for it and use it as extra gas on the fire, but don't rely on it. Yeah. What we can rely on is discipline, because motivation is a feeling, discipline is a decision, and it's a decision that we make in the moment. See, a mistake that most people make is they say things to me like, Alan, I could never do that list because I'm not a disciplined person. And I just remind them that's just a story you've told yourself. Now, historically, you may have plenty of evidence of where you've made undisciplined decisions. So you've learned to believe that story as a truth, but it's not. Every single person listening to this right now is capable of doing most of those things most of the time if they choose to. Now, whether or not they choose to is completely irrelevant to me, and there's no judgment for me if you don't. But don't tell yourself that you can't do those things when you're more than capable of doing them. And discipline is making a decision in the moment that most aligns with the person you're trying to become. So I already told you all, you see the 50-year-old version of me. I've told you who I want the 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100-year-old version of me to be. And a portion of that is to be physically fit. Well, that's why I'm doing those things today. So I'm casting a vote for the 60, 70, 80-year-old Alan to be physically fit. And if I keep doing those things every day, that'll put me on that path. Doesn't guarantee it, but it'll at least, put me on the path to doing that. So I think everyone has the ability to make disciplined decisions, and you only do it one decision at a time. Yep. Like you don't have to worry about anything in the world except tomorrow morning, go for that walk if that's what you promised yourself. You don't have to say, I'm going to walk every day this year. That would scare most people away. Yep. Don't say that. Just say, I'm going for a walk tomorrow. End of discussion. Keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah, you can't compare you starting with just walking to you've been doing this list for years. Right? That's not what people are seeing. They're seeing this list and, oh gosh, I could never do that. But you didn't start overnight.
No, and you don't have to do the whole list. Pick one thing on that list and just focus on that one thing. And another thing that I find interesting, especially with some of the supplements and things that I take, I don't necessarily know that they're working, but the placebo effect is real and it's powerful. And I just intuitively feel better when I know that I'm taking some of those supplements. Yeah. So whether or not they're actually working is irrelevant. I believe that I'm healthy and I believe that it's improving my longevity and vitality. So that belief is probably stronger than anything the supplements could give me in the first place from a real physiological standpoint.
Yeah, so true. A great point.
Okay, last question. Because last time you were here, we asked you if you could go back and tell your younger self something, what would it be? So we're going to change it up. And I love this question. So if you could look back at the most insecure version of yourself, the one who felt he had to prove his worth through productivity and tie his struggle to a single lesson, for the woman listening right now who feels she's not enough unless she is doing it all, what would that be?
And this is still something I'm wrestling with. There is, and I love the way you frame that, there's a difference between who you are at your core and who you believe you need to be in order for everyone else to like you, to accept you, and to approve of you. And it's important to know the first. We've all gotten really, or at least I've gotten really good at the latter. I know exactly who I need to be to show up, to get what I want to get, but I've got to really wrestle with who I am at my core and to be less performative and to be more true, to speak my truth and to step into my strength. And that's something I still struggle with right now. I mean, we keep talking about intimate relationships. That's one of my biggest roadblocks at present is I enter into intimate relationships with my performative hat on of I need to be the Alan Stein Jr. that does all the right things, says all the right things, can be this guy so that you'll like me. And that's not being my true self. That's not me having the courage to speak my mind and step into my truth and be a strong, safe, and secure man. And that's one of my biggest struggles at present. It's something I'm working on. Now, I can say that with a huge smile because I'm doing that better today than at any previous time in my life. So I'm going in the right direction, but I'm not anywhere close to being the strong, safe, secure, powerful, confident man that I'm capable of. I'm only scratching the surface, but I'm okay with that because that's part of the work. That's part of the evolution. That's part of the journey. And I'm fortunate to keep finding myself in relationships where people hold up a necessary mirror to remind me of when I'm not doing that. Yeah. And so for me, that's one of the other things I'm really working on is to try to be less performative and really speak my truth. And that's hard. And that's where insecurities come out because now you're putting your real self out there. And if I really step in and speak my truth of who I am and you don't like me, that hurts. But I'm getting to a point where I'm okay with that hurt. I'm okay with that rejection. I'm okay with that because at least now I'm speaking my truth and I'm living life on my terms instead of feeling the need to be performative. But all of that stems from childhood.
I think too, this is just the human journey. Like almost every guest we've had on, it all comes back to the not enoughness. We all feel it, right? We all strive for something or we know we're making mistakes or whatever. But thinking about, circling back to when you said your most authentic self, take it or leave it kind of, because if I don't provide that, it's not going to work. And so it's the being okay with showing up fully as you and still getting a rejection.
Yes.
Which is God's protection, I think, in my mind. But it's tough, right? It's tough because you want to be liked. It's this human need. But I think reminding yourself what we're actually looking for is true connection.
Yes.
The truth. And the truth is you have to show up as you.
Yes.
And you have to do the inner work to know that exactly how you are is enough.
Yes.
And I think that's everybody's journey.
And when you say take it or leave it, and the person says, all right, I'll leave it, you have to remind yourself, and this is again where I'm trying to connect to head to heart. If someone says leave it, that doesn't mean that I'm not enough. Right. And that doesn't mean that I'm not good. That just means I'm not the right fit. And there's nothing wrong with that. That part. So that's what I have to remind myself. But I also sit with the feelings because I won't sit here and pretend that it feels good to have someone say that. It's still a gut punch and it's still a shot to the ego. But I'm finally at a point where I can sit with those feelings and go, man, I don't like sitting in this mess. This doesn't feel good. I'm sad right now, but it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to like someone more than they like you back, and that can hurt, but that's okay. Yep. And that's where I am now. At some point, I will be able to step out of the mud wipe my shoes off, and be able to move forward and say, now I'm in a position of strength. Now I'm okay with whatever happens. I'm not quite there yet, but I can see the light. Not that there's ever a finish line. I don't believe there is a finish line, but just in the last several months of doing some of this deep work and some hypnotherapy, I can see a light that gives me so much optimism. And I believe, as I've told you guys, not only is the tagline, make my next 50 my best 50, but I believe that. I believe my best experiences are still in front of me. Best relationships are still in front of me. My best keynote is still inside of me. You know, if someone were to say right now, Alan, what's the best keynote you've ever given? You know what? Tomorrow morning at the Omni will be the best keynote that I've ever given. And then guess what? The next day in Lake Charles, Louisiana will be even better than that. I really believe that my next one is going to be my best one. And if for any reason it's not, I'll learn from it, course correct, recalibrate, and move on. So that optimism is what fills me and helps give me the courage to go through and do the messy work, because it's so uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable, but so worth it. And everything you're saying, I keep hearing extreme ownership.
Oh, yes.
Truth.
Thank you, Jocko Willink.
Acceptance. Yes. And you talk about all that in the book. But it almost, when you have that mindset, it quiets the ego. You can speak from your authentic self. Yeah. It feels good. It feels aligned.
Yes. Versus
I'm doing this to please the fear, the ego in me.
Well, I mean, the ego is who we think we are. Mm-hmm. It's not who we are. And that's something all of us wrestle with. I mean, I've been wrestling with that for my entire life and will probably continue to wrestle with it. But yes, if you can cut to the core of your true essence. I mean, it's the same thing with our thoughts. It's like Eckhart Tolle says, we're not our thoughts. We're the awareness of our thoughts.
Wild.
Yes. And that's, yes. And that even to some level, if you say, take it or leave it, and someone says, leave it, they're not even necessarily leaving you. They're leaving their perception of you and what they believe are you. And what I have to own is, well, if I didn't show up authentically because I showed up with my performative hat on, saying and doing all the things that I thought you wanted to hear, then you're actually not even rejecting me. You're rejecting the person that I was playing, who was playing me in the movie. And I'm trying to cut out all of the middlemen and just try and show up as myself. But you know what's funny? And it sounds weird even saying this as a 50-year-old who's been in this space forever. I don't even 100% know who I am. I mean, that's a weird statement to say, but I'm okay with saying it. Mm-hmm. I know exactly who I need to be, and I know who the performative Alan has been to get what he wants, but I don't necessarily know who I am to my core, and that's really where my exploration is. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I look forward to finding him and meeting him. He's in there somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, it shows you this work never ends.
Mm-hmm. Ever.
You're peeling an onion that you're just going to peel for life.
Yes.
But it's exciting work. It leads to fulfillment, to seeing that light, to being what people call enlightened.
Yes.
And I think this book is a great next play for people to get. Where can they find the book?
Amazon or Audible are usually the easiest spots to get the book or the audio book. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh.
It's so great that you're here again.
This is so fun.
Because we could have did Zoom anytime, but I'm so happy that you're here in this room again in the frozen tundra.
Yes.
Right,
hopefully a little more
with a comfortable chair.
Comfortable chair.
Almost needed
right
back surgery after the last one.
50th birthday.
Yes.
I love it. It is just an honor to sit with you. The work that you're doing is helping so many people, whether you're on the stage, people are reading your book, listening to the podcast that you're on. And so we're just so grateful that you're here and that you keep sharing the lessons that you're learning yourself, your authentic journey of getting back to the Alan that, we already love you as you are.
Oh, thank you.
But love that you're sharing this of getting back to like who you are. And I'm excited to hear more about who you are and what this next 50 is like.
We have so much to talk about over lunch.
I know.
We gotta stop.
And I know you guys
here.
will pick a healthy spot, which is just my thing. The three nerds.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much. This is always a blast.
All right. So we always sign off with a piece of gold. And today we're going to read one from Next Play. Alan says, the next play is to look for any potential reasons why you might come up short and ask what you can do now to better prepare for those challenges on the horizon. This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold. We want to thank you and encourage you to celebrate yourself for taking the time to learn and get inspired in your one beautiful life. And if this podcast means something to you, it would mean so much to us if you'd be willing to take 30 seconds to help support our mission to keep bringing you inspiring stories and guests.
First, Following the podcast is important because it helps you never miss an episode. To do this, just go to the Ivy Unleashed podcast show page on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and then just tap the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner or click on follow.
While you're there, if you'd be so kind to give us a 5-star rating and review and share your favorite episode with a friend, we'd be so grateful for your support.
We are thrilled you're here and are so happy that you're taking time to prioritize your wellness, self-discovery, and growth with us. Additionally, we want to remind you that this podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We are not licensed therapists, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals.